Alright, and then the final standard we'll be taking on the complex numbers, the i's, okay? Simplify completely, it's multiplication, so it's just a 1 and a 2-step process. I kind of have the 2 set up. So it's the FOIL method, so 3 times 2. 3 multiplied by negative 7i. 6i multiplied by 2. And 6i multiplied by negative 7i. So that equals 6. That equals negative 21i. That equals positive 12i. That equals negative 42i to the second. Now, when dealing with I, you need to replace I to the second with negative 1. And find the product of negative 1 and negative 42, and that's 42. Okay, so for I, you have negative 21 and 12. Add those, it's negative 9. And for constants, you have 6 and 42, which is 48. That's done. Okay, number 3, solving the equation for x. So there's 2 answers. So we have the x to the second, and we have x to the second only. So when you have x to the second only, you need to circle it and isolate it using inverse operations. So the opposite of minus 44 is plus 44. So I have 2x to the second power. Negative 224 plus 44 is negative 180. Now that means 2 times x, so we need to divide by the big 2 there to cancel that operation out. And x to the power of 2 equals negative 90. Then we have a second power. What's the opposite of a second power? It's a square root. Those undo each other, it gives me x. A square root means we need to put a positive negative. And when we have a negative number under a square root, we need to make it positive and extract into letter I outside. Okay. All right, now when you're isolating the x squared, when you do the square root, you need to use your list. Is 90 on this list? Nope. So you better make 2 square roots and see what 90 can maybe divide by. It's between these 2. So 90 divided by 81, fail. Divided by 64, fail. Divided by 49, fail. 36, fail. 25, fail. 16, fail. 9, okay, I got 9 and 10, so we need to put the 9 first and the 10 next, and replace that square root with its equal of 3. So we have 3 with a square root of 10, and that I needs to be included in the answer. So we have 3i square root 10 and 3i square root 10 with a negative in front. They're just opposites. Okay, solve the equation for x. There are 2 solutions here. But this one we have x squared, but there's also an x. So we are going to have to use the factoring process. You don't have a okay, so there's 3 terms. You already have your 0. So GCF box and the T box. GCF, negative in front. Nope. You got x on everything. Nope. On that GCF calculator, 5, 5, and 7 gives you a 1. So we can forget that. A, B, C. So A times C, that's 5 times 7, and that's 35. Positive. Sum of 5. Well, 1 and 35, that's 36. And the only other factors we have, 2, 3, and 4 are decimals. And then 35 divided by 5 is 7. Well, that's not a sum of 5 either. Well, that's the only factors we have for 35, so that's a fail. So we do the quadratic formula. Opposite of B, opposite of B. So 5 plus or minus the square root B squared minus 4, and the b is negative 5, and the a is positive 5, and the c is 7. Then we have 2 and the a, which is 5. Alright, so we got our plus minus. We got 5 in the front. 2 times 5 is a product of 10. And then let's figure out what's in that square root. Second square root, double it, the parentheses, and we have negative 5 first, close it, second it, minus, and then we have 4, 5, and 7. Domain error! So write the square root down and just punch in the expression without the square root. So I have negative 5 to the second, minus 4, 5, and 7. I got negative 115. Well, that's why the calculator was saying domain error, because it can't square root negatives. Those aren't part of the number system. So we make that I, and then we find the square root of 115. Now, since you had to use the quadratic formula, I don't need you to use that list. You can just use your calculator. It's when you're isolating x squared where I need this, the square root simplified like this. Okay, I got 10.72. And since you had to do the letter I, you need to put that there. And that's two distinct answers. We can't simplify on top now with that I there. So we have 5 plus 10.72i over 10. And then 5 minus 10.72i over 10. And those are your two answers. Alright, so remember, nothing big here. Other than that, remember, if you're domain error, you just punch it in without the square root, but you need to make your own square root. I, so forth and so forth. All right.